This is the Nightshade Cult, a podcast macabre.
We bid you welcome. Enter freely and of your own will.
I'm Nick Grimm.
And I'm David Graves.
And we will be your horror hosts for this dissection of Alfred Hitchcock's 1960s psychological horror Proto-Slasher Psycho.
Good evening. This is a legendary movie from a legendary director.
Yeah, it's our first Hitchcock movie.
Yeah.
It's on the AFI's top 100 films of all time and the BFI's top 100 films of all time.
Yeah.
Although the Brits put it a little lower than the Americans do.
Yeah, Americans really seem to love this one. I did some reading and I actually had the AFI stats because this is the number 18 movie of all time. Mm-hmm. It's the number 1 thriller of all time. Norman Bates is the number 2 villain of all time.
Oh wow, is he even a villain? I thought he was the protagonist of the story.
It has the number 56 quote of all time, which is "A boy's best friend is his mother."
Yeah.
It has the number 4 film score of all time. And they did an updated version of their 100 best movies after 10 years, in which this gained ground. It became number 14 of all time.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So that's an interesting thing. And this thing, it received 4 Academy Award nominations. It didn't win any of them. Hitchcock for Best Director, Janet Leigh for Supporting Actress, and then it had... interestingly, at that time, there were different categories for black and white and color for art direction and cinematography. They received, of course, the black and white nominations, but still didn't win.
It still didn't win. The Academy doesn't like horror. Horror almost never wins anything but technical awards. Mm-hmm. And this movie was like an edgelord movie at the time. Oh, it is. It's very edgy in its portrayal of violence, sexual content, which it seems quite tame by our modern standards. But you do have a man and woman in somewhat undress at the beginning of the movie, right from the start.
It's very clear that they're both stepping out or whatever.
And the costume designer talked about how showing the mechanical workings of a bra was considered very edgy. You normally would have to have a slip over it. You couldn't just have a woman in her bra. Yeah. Because it's too much to see how the bra operates. The delicate public can't handle that.
Yeah, this is an interesting story because this is based on the Robert Bloch novel, Psycho, and which is based loosely on Ed Gein, the Plainsfield Ghoul, famous serial killer.
Very loosely.
It's loosely. I mean, like, Ed Gein did way more grisly stuff than Norman Bates
does. Yeah, no, I mean, I guess the connection is the taxidermy stuff, but...
and ultimately Mother, preserved corpse.
But Ed Gein did some really gnarly taxidermy. You're stretching the definition of the word taxidermy for what he was doing.
He inspired Slayer's Dead Skin Mask and all this stuff. And he was he's gnarly.
Yeah. I think Norman Bates is tame in comparison to Ed Gein.
Cultists, if you haven't just read the Wikipedia page on Ed Gein, go do it. It's interesting. I read the whole thing. I was just like, oh, it's based on this. And I started reading, and I just kept reading and kept reading. I was like, this is crazy.
Yeah, he's of the different serial killers, he's one of the more unsettling ones.
Yeah, he didn't actually kill a lot of people, but he did a lot of grave robbing.
Yeah. So, and Norman does that too.
Yes.
Actually, because he grave robs his mother.
Yeah. So, that's part of how the whole connection is. So, I did a little math. This was, and it's interesting how close it is, or I don't know, numbers are weird, but when this was made, it was made in 1959, and he mostly did it with his TV crew for Alfred Hitchcock Presents, because he couldn't really get a good budget. So he also filmed in black and white to keep the budget down for $800,000, which in modern day money that's $8.8 million. So
it's a very low budget film.
Yeah, in a modern day, an $8.8 million film is crazy. So it grossed about $50 million, which would be roughly $500 million.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's nuts.
It's interesting because Paramount was not happy with him. Because this is the last movie in his contract with Paramount. He's moving on to Universal. He's got a new deal with them. And it's a little bit like the cinematic version of putting out a live album. He
takes a TV crew and makes a short movie.
Yeah, he's like, I owe them one more movie. I'm going to do a low budget black and white horror movie with the crew from my TV show. And they're like, the fuck you are. And he's like, well, what are you going to do about it? And then he gives an all-time classic. And they're like, we're so happy with what you've done that, because that low budget huge return is the dream.
Yeah, that's absolutely what they wanted. And then he moved on, and then ultimately later Universal bought the rights to this, I believe. Yeah,
it's this the Psycho, the Bates Motel and the Psycho house have ever been one of the main things on the Universal Studios tour to this day.
Oh yeah. It's cool.
When you go to Halloween Horror Nights and you can walk around on the back lot, you can go up to the house and the hotel and stuff, and it's still there. It looks exactly the way it does in the movie.
Yeah, they take care of that stuff. So yeah, I just thought that this was really the kind of the backstory behind this movie was really interesting about how it was filmed. Why he chose to do black and white. And some of it was because then the blood was black. It wasn't red. They could actually use chocolate syrup for the blood, and it wouldn't. It would be less controversial of a movie. And it's just very interesting how he pushed this through, spent some of his own money to get more budget, and then it ultimately just paid off in a big way.
Yeah. It's interesting that from what I saw in the making of documentary, the thing that the censors really bumped up against ended up being the word transvestite.
Oh.
Which it comes at the end of the movie, and they're like, you can't include that word. It's filthy or whatever. And they're like, it's not. It's actually, we don't use that term much anymore, but it was at the time the technical term. And they're like, no, look, in a dictionary. And it's like a man who dresses in women's clothing. And they're like, oh, okay. Well, and it's in the movie.
It was definitely at the time the proper word.
Yeah. It's like he's a transvestite. It was like, and the know-it-all psychiatrist is like, well, not exactly.
That fucking guy.
It's more complicated than that. So had you seen this before?
No, I never saw it.
Okay. I had seen it. I'm very outside the norm in that I actually saw Gus Van Sant's remake of Psycho before I saw the original.
Oh, wow.
And
how was that?
It's a shot-for-shot remake.
Oh, okay.
So, I don't have the hatred for it that most people seem to have. It is a completely pointless movie. To remake this movie shot for shot, just with a different cast as a tribute, Did
they even use the same sets and stuff?
I don't think it's the same sets. Probably not. At least not the interiors. But it's all the same framing. It is just the same movie, but with Vince Vaughn instead of Anthony Perkins.
No need for that.
But because I saw that first, and then I saw this movie, and I was like, oh, well, shit. He really did just remake that movie, faithfully. It's like when someone does a cover song that's perfect.
That's too close, yeah.
Yeah, and you're like, well, that sounds just like the original song.
A faithful remake.
Which is just, if you just take it as an art project, that's fine. He's like, I want to remake Psycho as faithfully as I can.
Yeah,
and he did it. So I don't hate the remake, but it's just a superfluous film. Longer tangent on that I meant to. The thing that I really knew Alfred Hitchcock from is Alfred Hitchcock Presents, that TV show. That's, we had Channel 12, KPTV, our local UHF channel that showed old Star Trek, Perry Mason, Twilight Zone, and Alfred Hitchcock Presents. So I always watched that show, and that had a big impact on me growing up. But I didn't see this movie until I was a young adult.
Yeah, I liked all those shows, even though they were way out of date by the time we were watching them as kids. But I always liked watching Hitchcock Presents and stuff. But my favorite Hitchcock movie has always been Birds. I really love that movie. It's just because it's, in a modern sense, it's not scary, but it's suspenseful. You know what I mean? Like, and it has so many perfect classic tropes that have become standard now. Yeah. So it surprised me that I never saw this, but then again, the entire premise of the movie is like, you can write the script down on like a business card. Yeah. It's like, it's so simple.
It's very simple.
It's ridiculously simple. There are some nuanced parts that I didn't know about before seeing it, but I knew the whole idea. Lady goes to hotel, gets murdered by guy. Guy has his mom's body in a room. He pretends she's alive. Mentally ill guy, whatever. Yeah, that's the whole movie.
Yeah, when a movie has entered the zeitgeist so thoroughly as this one has, you've seen everything before you see it. Yeah. Like, literally, if you don't know anything, you know the music, and you know that means someone's getting stabbed.
Yeah, that's just like the sound effect for stabbing.
Yeah, and you don't even know where it comes from when you're a kid, right? But it all comes from this movie. It's just been homaged, and like I noticed the shot when she's leaving town in the car and her boss sees her in the car. Yeah. That's Butch and Marcellus Wallace in Pulp Fiction. They do that exact framing.
I love that.
He's driving off in the Volkswagen and Marcellus Wallace is crossing the street with the donuts in front of him. And it's like, oh shit. Yeah, like Psycho is just loaded. Like everything in Psycho has been copied.
Yeah, and you know that there's not a chance that wasn't extremely intentional.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, everything in a Tarantino movie is a reference to something. Yeah, that's his whole milieu. Yeah, is how many references to movies can I squeeze into this, and how obscure can they get? Psycho's very
it's not obscure. All right, let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back with our dissection of Psycho.
A woman on the run after stealing from her employer stops at a roadside motel for the night and is murdered by the disturbed young man that runs it. She is soon followed by several people searching for her.
That's one of the things that really kind of threw me when I was watching this movie. The writing and directing decision to start the movie, it's really a 3-act movie. Act 1, Marion Crane is the protagonist. She's the main character of the movie. You follow her perspective. Everything's kind of about her and what surrounds her. And then she gets to Act 2, and as they break into 2, she just gets murdered. Yeah. And then Act 2 is basically the Norman Bates act. Yeah. And then Act 3 is about like her boyfriend and sister, right?
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
And so
and Arbogast, the private investigator.
Yeah, so it's like the 3 acts of this movie have 3 different sort of main perspectives. Yeah. And I found that to be interesting storytelling. Obviously, I think that that would never be done today. Yeah. There's no way a modern movie would do that.
Janet Leigh was the biggest star in the movie, and killing her off at the end of the first act is a bold move.
It's a shocker.
And that was the point. No one is expecting her to die. You're expecting the movie is going to be whatever. It's her moral journey after stealing this money.
Yeah, because Janet Leigh and Anthony Perkins are bankable actors.
Yeah. Well, he's very up and coming at this point. Like he's been in a few things. He's buzzy, but he's not a movie star. She's the movie star.
Yeah, she's the movie star. And the write-ups that I was reading basically were saying that the studio had a lot of confidence in his casting, and they thought that this was going to be really good because these names would bring people in.
Yeah. And do you see they had all the theaters basically agree to not allow anyone in after the start of the movie.
Oh, yeah.
People couldn't come late because they didn't want people to come in after the murder, basically, and be confused as to where's Janet Leigh? When's she going to show up? And she's already off screen.
Yeah, there were movie posters made that had Hitchcock on them, and it had like him kind of like standing blocking the door, and it says, and it had like, I can't remember the exact writing, but it said something like, "I want you to see the whole movie beginning to end.
Yeah,
no latecomers," or something along that line.
And we haven't mentioned this. Hitchcock is one of the first people, like he's one of the people that auteur theory is based on.
Okay.
Like he's one of those directors that the French cinephiles at Cahiers du Cinema, they were like, a Hitchcock movie is a Hitchcock movie. It's not a Paramount movie. It's not a Universal movie. It's a Hitchcock movie. He has an authorial voice that is clear. You can see his signature all through it. Yeah. And I think that's absolutely true. And I mean, even in the way he cameos in all of the movies.
Yeah, I think that's really made its way into the modern sensibility about movies. Like everybody is all about, they like to watch their favorite director because they view their favorite director as a storyteller, that they prefer their method.
Yeah, and he's one of those, one of the first people that had that status of being an auteur. And to that point, we call things Hitchcockian. We call it that's the Hitchcock ending, and that's I
love the Hitchcock ending. It's my favorite.
Yeah, he likes his twists.
I like a twist and a looming threat. It's not solved. That's why I love the Alien movies, and I love Ridley Scott. Yeah. He uses Hitchcock endings almost exclusively. It's great.
Hitch is really good at tension and just sort of building a sense of anxiety, and like it's I called it a proto-slasher because it's not quite what we think of as a slasher movie, but it does kick off that sort of genre, and it's like, I'm trying to think what, like a true slasher movie, it uses moments of humor to sort of like disarm you, and then something crazy happens.
Yeah, you're like, you think this guy's like a weird, kind of a wonky mama's boy, and then he's like, oh no, this guy is fucking crazy. Yeah. He's a psycho.
He's the psycho. Yeah, you're like, I was wondering who the psycho was. It's him.
It's a nice guy.
Yeah, Norman is just a fascinating character. He's very disarming and sort of like sweet. Like, she's obviously charmed by him.
Yeah, he's giving like big Mr. Rogers vibes.
Yeah. And yeah, it's really interesting the way they play his awkwardness. I feel like it's a sort of character we see more now, this sort of a lovable dork sort of character. Like, he could be one of the Big Bang Theory guys. He's like Newt Scamander.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. God, what's that guy's name? Eddie Redmayne. Mm-hmm. He would be a great Norman Bates.
Yes,
for sure. There is a young Norman Bates though, because there's that whole Bates Motel TV show that ran for like 3 seasons.
Yeah, I never watched that.
I didn't either, but I heard it was good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I have to check it out.
We'll have to look at that.
Maybe we could do an episode on each season.
Oh, I don't know if I want to get into another TV show.
No, not for a while. Especially if there's 22 episodes in a season.
Well, it's a streaming show, so there's probably 10.
There's probably 8 or 10.
Yeah, modern style. So anyways, directed by Alfred Hitchcock, screenplay by Joseph Stefano, based on the book by Robert Bloch, like you said. Mm-hmm. Stefano has a lot to do with this movie. He was himself in, now we'd say in therapy. He says in analysis. He was being analyzed by a psychiatrist and dealing with mommy issues himself. And so he had a lot to say. Like, he felt very invested in the Norman Bates character. And he changes him from the way he is in the book, where he's like a 40-something overweight, sort of more of a loser, and he makes him.
He's kind of a sling blade sort of a fella.
Yeah, like he makes him younger so that it's less weird how young he seems, and kind of makes him into more of an empathetic protagonist, or not protagonist, but antagonist, but an empathetic character. Because he didn't like the version of Norman from the book. He made him more like himself, basically.
I don't like this guy, but I like me. So
yeah. What if he was more like me, but a killer? And I'm definitely not. You could definitely stay in my motel. I wouldn't kill you.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of really cool things in here. Like, we have a lot of stuff in the movie that is misleading intentionally, but they don't normally straight up tell you wrong information.
Yeah.
They just let you assume wrong information.
Yeah.
It's a really good directing and storytelling style where because it's easy to trick people. It's better to not trick them and let them trick themselves.
Yeah, let them lead them to something and let them think they know what's going to happen, and then pull the rug out.
Yeah, and of course we knew the whole time.
Yeah.
The big reveal was revealed in pop culture.
Yeah, because the movie's ancient. Yeah. 65 years old.
Yeah, but it was still good to watch it unfold and see, oh, I see what you're doing there. That's an interesting thing you're doing. You know, it's a good, I hesitate to call it an unreliable narrator, but I would say that it is a limited information narrator.
Yeah, and I think the thing that the big reveal, not just that Janet Leigh gets murdered, because everyone knows that.
Yeah.
But that Norman cosplays as mother.
Is mother, yes.
Yeah, and that is because we only see the shadow of Norma, and Norman is a slight, like, he's a skinny guy, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, you won't necessarily put two and two together that his mother isn't actually alive. So when the sheriff says Norma's mother has been dead for 10 years or whatever, it's you're like, what? Well, then who killed the girl? Like, and it doesn't compute for you. Yeah, it's just very well executed.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and this kind of it's interesting how they're trying to play on this sort of traumatic, weird mental illness thing, and at the time, the understanding of mental illness was so much more limited than it is now. It makes it just seem kind of weird and obscure through a modern point of view. Yeah.
So now we'd call it dissociative identity disorder. At the time, they said multiple personalities. But that was, even in into the 90s, that was talk show fodder, right? Like people that have multiple personality disorder would be trotted out like freak show guests, and you're like, who are we talking to now? And Phil Donahue would look concerned, you know, and like it's interesting. Norman Bates feels almost like a Batman villain is sort of what I was thinking. I was like, this becomes such a trope, this guy that has the evil personality that takes over, and is the evil personality is the criminal, and the guy is actually very nice.
Yeah, and even at the very end, when he's like sitting in the jail cell, he doesn't seem like an evil guy.
Yeah.
He seems like a confused guy.
Yeah, and we're listening to Mother narrate it. Yeah, which is exactly how the book ends. The same way with Mother's narration.
It is kind of sick and sad that like he's literally like all of the Mother yelling at him or whatever. That's just him.
It's just
he's
him.
yelling at himself.
Both sides. That's one of those things.
He's his own bully.
It's true, and that's included. That's part of the book too. Is like Mother chastising him, and like it's definitely implied that she abused him, maybe sexually abused him when he was a child. Like that comes through in the movie. Like the way she talks to him.
Yeah, it's pretty nasty.
It is like he is a sympathetic character. Like he's not portrayed as being like. He's not American Psycho, right? Like he's not. He's not Patrick Bateman, who has no redeeming qualities. Norman Bates seems like an abused person who acts out badly.
Absolutely, he seems like a trauma victim that like they say, hurt people. Yeah, that seems like him over.
He is totally the hurt person that hurts people. You do sort of wonder how many cars that swamp will hold.
Yeah, like the first time. So if you haven't watched the movie, he takes a car and he inexplicably drives it up to the edge of a, like it doesn't even look like a swamp. It just looks like a field. Yeah. But then he gets out and he slowly pushes it forward, and it sort of starts sinking, and then it doesn't really sink all the way. And I'm just thinking, I'm like, oh my God, you couldn't have just let it coast in on its own power? You couldn't have cracked the windows so some air could get in there so it could sink better?
Crack the windows but you did think like as it doesn't sink, as it's kind of stops, you're thinking of ways to make it sink, right?
Absolutely.
So Hitchcock always talks about how that's very subversive, right? Because he's shown this guy is disposing of a body that he just murdered.
He's making you complicit.
And he's making you complicit in it because when the car goes halfway down and stops, you're like, oh no, sink. And you're like rooting for the car to sink.
Joke's on Hitchcock. I always think about stuff like that.
You're like, I would have thought, Norman, roll the windows down so the water
exactly.
can get in. Yeah, you don't want to make air pockets. Yeah, so they did that on the Universal backlot. They drained the lake and put in a car lift.
Oh, okay.
So that they could roll the car in on the lift and then lower it.
Okay.
And then stop and then lower it the rest of the way to do that effect.
That's tricky. I like that.
Yeah, it's old school movie magic.
Yeah. None of the CG nonsense. Yeah, that was good. And then he does it again, and I'm like, okay, this is the swamp of infinite sorrows.
Yeah, in the book, it makes a point of him going out there and finding a different spot in the swamp.
It kind of reminded me of Dexter, how he goes and takes bodies out into the Everglades and stuff to dispose of them.
That is one of the differences. So the book, in the movie, she's in Arizona and traveling to California.
Oh.
In the book, she starts in Texas and is, what's above Texas? Oklahoma? Yeah, she goes up to Oklahoma.
Okay.
So the swamp makes more sense, like where they are, than it does really in California. That just doesn't. I don't know,
man. I spent a lot of time in Oklahoma in the military, and I never encountered a swamp.
Swamps. There's no swamps.
It's like flat and scrubby with kind of thin tree forests.
Yeah.
Behind
the Bates Motel, there is there is a very convenient.
I'm
swamp.
sure, Cultists, if you've been to Oklahoma and been to a swamp, let us know. I'm pretty sure Lance has. He was in Oklahoma as long as I was.
I watched all the seasons of Reservation Dogs. It's all the Oklahoma I need, I think.
Yeah, it's kind of like that, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so editing by George Tomasini, and there's some great editing in this, especially the shower scene.
Oh yeah, it's mostly implied violence. You don't see a lot of actual.
The knife never touches her.
Yeah, it's the hand pumps. Then it kind of cuts. The lady screeches.
Yeah.
Something splatters chocolate syrup on her.
Yeah. And it's like knife, cut. Girl's face, cut. Mm-hmm. And you interpret every cut as a stab. But
Absolutely.
you never see a stab.
And I love this kind of editing because I don't appreciate gratuitous violence in movies. I'm not a gore hound. I know there are people that love it, but I actually think that your brain does more than special effects ever could.
And so that was another thing that came up when they showed it to the censors. One of the censors said, "I saw a nipple," and they're like, "You absolutely didn't see a nipple."
Frame for frame, no.
Yeah, there is not a nipple in there. I saw one. It's like, roll it back.
She probably wasn't even naked in the filming of it.
She's pretty naked.
You think so?
She had moleskin basically.
Oh, okay, a little pasties
plastered over her boobs. Yeah, and contrary to what they tell you on the Universal Studios tour, they didn't blast her with cold water. They kept warm water the whole time.
Oh, that's nice of them.
But the bad part of that is it did steam off the moleskin eventually. So the final take. She lost the pasties by the end, and she was like, "I'm not doing this anymore. Like, I've been in the shower all day, and I'm not going to mess up the shot." Basically, and she just let him fall, and was like, "All right, now get me out of here. I'm done with this."
Yeah, that scene was is classic. Obviously, the stabbing sounds, the lack of actual violence. I think it's kind of a masterclass on how to imply violence without showing it.
Yeah, because like you just said, your mind is so much worse than So like the censor saw the nipple. You imagine the nipple. You imagine
that same censor is like, remember in that first scene when he was raw dogging her, and then later on,
right before the movie opened, the gratuitous sex scene I imagined had just happened.
Yeah, they're all just like, oh man, this guy.
Yeah, we didn't even see the lunch break quickie. It's interesting, and I guess we're still in storytelling. That's one of the parts of the movie that makes the least sense in a modern audience, is why there's any need for sneaking around with them at all, because they're two single people, and they're meeting up for like trysts when they're grown ass adults.
Yeah, he's just like a divorced guy that works at a hardware store, and she's like a clerk at a bank or whatever.
Yeah.
There's no reason they can't just be dating.
Except for, like...
in the 50s, that wasn't a thing.
It's seen as inappropriate that these two are having relations with each other.
Yeah.
But this would so not... Like, this just doesn't work in our modern sensibilities, like, at all. Like, in the modern sense, this guy... they would have moved in together already. Like, the whole, he's like, you're going to live in a room in the back of a hardware store with me? She's like, no, I will rent an apartment and we'll live in it together.
Yeah, I mean, like, if let's say we're making a modern day remake, not a shot for shot or whatever. What you do is you just have to make the guy be like anti-committal. He's got issues because he's divorced, and he's like, no, we can't move in. And they're at a hotel, and she's like, you won't even let me come to your apartment. He's like, yeah, I don't know. Come on, stop pushing me. You have to zhuzh it up a little bit.
Come up with a reason, but then you.
Non-committal dude is not a weird thing. That's pretty normal.
It's not a weird thing, but it's not. It's not the character of this guy who's a fairly stand-up.
Yeah, he's like a stand-up kind of handsome guy. Like, there's no reason people be like, you're dating him? He's a divorcee.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a change from the book. In the book, he's not a divorcee, but he's deep in debt because his dad, who owned the hardware store ahead of him, was like had a gambling problem.
Ooh.
And basically the family business is deep in the hole, and he thinks he doesn't want to lose the family business, and so he's paying off the debts rather than file bankruptcy. But to make shit work out, he's living in the hardware store so that all the money can go into paying off the debts. And then when he's on the other side of it, he can rebuild his family.
So he's actually like a decent guy.
Yeah, super decent. Like, he's super stand-up. Like, arguably more stand-up than Marion is, who is the Norman Bates. He's a small business owner.
Yeah, he's also a small business owner, yeah.
No, the Marion who... You put an envelope full of money in her hand and she runs off with it.
Okay, so $40,000, modern day, roughly $400,000.
Yes, we also looked this up.
You're working.
It's not life-changing money.
No, $400,000 is not enough to get me to quit my job. You know that. I mean, it's enough to make me think about it, but I wouldn't.
It's actually. Let me rephrase that. It's life-changing money because it is about a house. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, you could buy a house with it because that's what it was for.
Absolutely.
Whatever cowboy gangster guy who doesn't pay taxes that is buying a house
in cash.
Yeah, is buying a house in cash. I am super curious about what that guy does, but it's life-changing money, but it is not. I can take this money and disappear forever money. You know what I mean?
Unless you're going to like Central America and just
she's going next state over.
That's true.
She's not going. And
she's like, I'm going to go to exotic Oklahoma.
Yeah, it's like in the book. I'm going to California. I'll change cars, and I'll change my name, and no one will ever find me. And it's like, it's enough money. They will find you, but it's not enough money that you could actually make a new life with it. So
no, not really. Not a stand-up life. You might be able to buy a boat and become like a boat hobo.
Yeah. If you did like drive south instead of north.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm going to Mexico with this $40,000.
Or Canada.
Yeah. Just keep going north. Yeah. But that's why also, like, after the heat of the moment has faded, she's like, I'm going to take the money back. I'll bring it back. I'll get back on Monday. We deposit the money. I'll pay back the part that I borrowed out of it to buy the car with.
Mm-hmm. And it's only $700.
Yeah. And, like, she even realizes...
Well, I guess that's $7,000. That's not chump change.
Yeah. She'll be working as a clerk for a long time to pay that off. But she sees the error of her ways. Like, she was like, this was a bad, impulsive move to make.
It was a very understandable break in moral character that you could definitely see someone doing.
Yeah.
Especially since, her boyfriend is like an impoverished dude or whatever, so money kind of could solve some of that.
And the guy is a creep. Like, the guy is creeping on her, and the guy, like, he's a criminal. Like, I don't know what kind of criminal. He definitely doesn't pay taxes. He says that straight up. Like, he's like, I don't declare my income, and I keep all my money. Like,
yeah.
And so you're like, yeah, you can steal from this guy. Anyone that's buying a house with cash, you can steal from, because no one has $400,000
just
cash
chilling
that isn't a drug dealer or something. You know, he's some sort of nefarious guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, so kind of moving on to visuals.
Okay.
This is an interesting movie, and it actually, in appearance, it kind of reminded me of some of that Nosferatu expressionism.
Yeah.
We got some high contrast lighting going on in a lot of the scenes. And I love how some of it's so California.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I love it. Like, I love those old shots of SoCal.
Yeah, it is pretty much, I think, other than like the establishing shot that's supposed to be in Phoenix or whatever, that I think they might have flown a crew out there to shoot that. Everything is within 20 minutes of Universal Studios. It's all kind of in the LA surrounding area. I feel like they go to some of those same places in Twin Peaks: The Return.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, like it seemed like it's like this road and these hills is very familiar.
That's where you find the arm wrestling gang.
Yeah, exactly. Or the Mirrored Shades cop who stops you for sleeping on the side of the road.
Oh man, that cop scene back in storytelling, like That was some needless scenes right there. It didn't affect the outcome of the movie in the least.
Yeah, but it builds tension. Like
just being kind of hounded by a cop out of town.
And like, so there's a very famous story of Hitchcock did something when he was a little kid, and his dad basically asked the sheriff in their town to lock him in the jail cell for a day, and like so he'd learn his lesson for whatever, for stealing cookies or whatever it was. And so he had a lifelong basically fear of the police and authority and all of these things. So like to him, all this stuff with the cop is the scariest stuff
in the movie. Most terrifying bit.
And I fucking hate having a cop following behind me like that.
Oh yeah.
Like that is super tense for me too.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like when a policeman pulls in behind you, you're like, oh,
yeah, and you just like
feeling.
Hold your breath until they take the exit, and then he takes the exit, and then sneaky follows her anyway and shows up at the used car dealership.
Sure.
Anyways, cinematography by John L. Russell, art direction by Robert Clatworthy and Joseph Hurley. Saul Bass did the title sequence and storyboards and claims to have directed the shower sequence, although no one else agrees with that. Everyone says he's reaching.
Oh, okay.
Costume design by Rita Riggs and special effects by Clarence Champagne.
Yeah, this movie is all about old school movie magic where like, oh, let's make Norman appear like imposing or disturbed or whatever. Okay, so we'll film him at low angle shots.
Yeah,
and then when we turn and we're looking at Marion, we're doing really high angle shots and make her look smaller and make her look more vulnerable. And this is all like massive point of view manipulation in order to get you immersed in the film.
Yeah, like the way that the house, behind the hotel looks just so huge and imposing. And it's not nearly that big when you see it in person.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but the way they shoot it, looking up at it, it looks like a very scary house. Like,
yeah, it looks haunted.
Yeah, it looks like a haunted house. Like it's got the ghost of an old woman inside of it. Yeah.
No ghost, just corpse.
Just the corpse of an old woman. Yeah. Or like talking about old school magic, the where Arbogast falls down the stairs, which doesn't look realistic, but it is like the way the camera moves through the house is really fascinating. Like how it rises up the stairs, and then when Norma attacks him and he falls backwards down the stairs, and the camera follows him down. Like it seems like it takes an elaborate rig for the camera to move on to
they must have had tracks laid and all of that stuff to get those shots.
It works. It's
all really old school.
Yeah, obviously, like these are people making multiple episodes of a TV show.
Yeah,
like they're making weekly episodes of a TV show. They're consummate professionals. Like they know how to crank this stuff out and how to like. We need you to build this thing, and they're like, okay. And they just build it. Like they know how to figure that out.
Just like prop departments that are totally all, they're very practiced at working together. And they're at Universal. That's where it's where they work. They're at their normal workshop. They're just making a movie. It's like an extended episode of Presents.
Yeah. And so Hitchcock really didn't like going on location because he liked being there on the lot where you have total control over everything.
Yeah.
So like that's why there's just a few like city scenes towards the beginning of the movie, and then the rest of it all takes place like in one corner of the Universal lot.
All of these movies that are filmed on the Universal lot, they have that look and vibe. Like it has a specific style.
Feeling to it.
Yeah, it has a style that is just, it's very noticeable.
Yeah, like you said when we were coming down here to the pod cave, and you're like, it feels like some of the older movies we've watched.
Yes.
And I mean, it is. It's filmed yards away from the Frankenstein village, and like it's all very close by.
The werewolf, what was the werewolf movie?
Wolfman,
yeah, Wolfman. If this felt so Wolfman,
the Wolfman's woods and Norman Bates' swamp are probably the same place. You know what I mean? Like,
and they were filmed like 20 years apart basically, and it's the same place.
Yeah, totally. So and that's another movie we talked about how low budget it was, and that's because Universal was just a factory, and making a black and white horror movie at Universal is about the easiest thing you could do.
Yeah, I mean, but that movie was pretty good. So is this.
And they're all-time classics. They just cranked them out. They were a factory.
Yeah, so I don't think that the visuals, I mean, we could talk about a lot of that old schoolism, but really this movie, it looked like all of those Universal horror movies, but with a little more, as Murderface would say, zazz.
It is zazzier. It's sexier.
Because it has, Hitchcock just cared a little bit more. He was an auteur.
Yeah.
It felt like Universal done Hitchcock style.
Yeah.
It didn't feel generic at all.
He cares about everything. Like, he's not someone that's going to be like, whatever, let wardrobe handle that. He's going to have opinions on, there's storytelling even in the costumes, right? Like, so when we see Marianne the first time and she's wearing the white bra, but then after she steals the money, she's wearing the black bra. It's just like old school subliminal storytelling. She sinned and is stained.
It's like John Wick. He wears the black shirt with the suit after he leaves the Continental.
Yeah.
It's like you gotta have these symbolism things.
Or Star Wars Return of the Jedi, as Luke is the closest to the dark side, he switches to the black costume where he had the white costume,
which is the coolest costume.
It is the coolest. I agree with the black glove.
That's Luke at his peak, in my opinion.
It is. That's why when he shows up in Mandalorian season 2, the best season of Mandalorian.
Yeah, everyone's like, yes,
finally black outfit Luke. Yeah, so like it's. All these things have become tropes over time, but the language is still, I think, being invented. You have just in 1959, what movies are 40 years old? Like movies are, or less,
and if especially if you're talking about talkies.
Oh yeah,
not just silent.
And Hitchcock is really because he's a huge filmography, and a bunch of them are silent era. So he's one of those few directors that transitioned from silent to talkies successfully, and had his biggest success on the talkie side, where so many filmmakers, when sound was introduced, they're like, I don't know how to do this anymore.
Yeah, because really they were like play directors before. Yeah. They weren't truly movie makers.
Yeah. This still has that chamber play vibe a lot of the time. It's two people in a room talking to each other.
But I kind of love that in movies. I love a small cast movie, or when the scenes are really, really intimate like that. Like, I don't know if it's a great comparison, but like this movie, seeing it, some of the scenes really make me think of like Reservoir Dogs.
Oh yeah,
just like really small scenes. There's intimate violence going on. You know, there's like intense conversations. It's got a pretty small cast. I like the things I like about Hitchcock's movies like this are the same things I like about Tarantino movies.
Yeah, it's dialogue intensive.
Everything's very intentional. There isn't a lot of throwaway stuff going on in the movie.
Yeah,
and I like that.
I can totally see that. Yeah, it's and I was gonna say, even though it's still like a chamber play, it's verging on naturalistic acting. Like it's not.
It's close.
It's not old school horror movie acting where it's like over the top. It's pretty close to the way people would speak in 1959.
Yeah, like the first few interactions between Marion and Norman, they feel really pretty normal. And then his awkwardness comes in, like about the sandwich and stuff and all this stuff.
Yeah.
His awkwardness comes through, but it doesn't feel like a weird play. It just feels like an awkward guy.
Yeah, it's not
and
like
a pretty lady, you know.
Yeah, it's not like I don't know, like Claude Rains or like one of these guys from the older movies. It's not overly theatrical. Like the Norman Bates performance is pretty subtle because he changes.
Yeah,
you can see in his eyes as he shifts between the different personalities.
The physical acting is really great.
Yeah, and we'll say more about that in a little bit. But that's the part of the movie that feels really modern, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What about audio?
I mean, the score, obviously it was named as one of the greatest of all time.
It's not an easy listen though. It's very repetitive.
Yeah, and the opening credit roll, the score is just hella intense. The score during the opening credit roll is the Ice Monster prologue of this movie.
Yeah.
It's building you up. It's dramatic as hell. Yeah. And then immediately when it cuts to like acting, it's just immediately calm and it's chill. They kind of, it almost feels like while the credits are rolling, they're trying to build anxiety in you just through music, and then it becomes calm and you're like, oh, I can finally breathe.
That's the perfect description of the score, I think. Bernard Herrmann is the composer. It's all strings.
Yeah.
Which he was told, like, you can't do that. You need brass, you need wind, you need other instruments. And he's like, all strings. Just cello, violin, viola.
Viola. You can't forget the viola.
Yeah, like, and there is something anxious about that bow drag.
Yeah, especially when they're doing it like really staccato. And it's just like, it's just like, it's like chalkboard, nails on a chalkboard, but more.
Yeah.
If you've ever tried to play a violin or a viola or whatever, as an unskilled player, the way that the rosin, which is like a tree sap, friction builder that goes on the bow strings, and you're dragging it across the violin, it is so abrasive sounding. It is so it's hard to make it sound good. And so when a skilled player tries to make it sound harsh, it sounds gnarly.
And then similarly, like we talked about the calm, those long strokes, and just and then it becomes like a lullaby, and
it's
just
really
like
soft
and brings you down, and then when it comes back, it freaks you out again. Like it's just so expertly done, like and layered in the movie. But listening to it as an album, it repeats like 5 motifs over and over again, and so you're like, every song is the same things in just different orders and different lengths. And so it's just not one of those scores that you can listen to, but it is a score instantly and is so effective at like, I feel like the score, especially in old movies, tells you where your heart rate should be.
Absolutely.
Like it brings you up and then brings you down. And
they're very blatant with the music, and they don't always use music. There's a lot of places in this era of movies where there's just nothing. It's silent, and I like that. I don't think you need to fill the air all the time.
Yeah, just let the stillness work.
Just let it be weird.
Yeah, let it be awkward. Yeah, just like real life. Just like if you went to a roadside motel in the middle of the night, and the guy made you cheese and pickle sandwiches and is entertaining you in the parlor of his hotel lobby or whatever.
He makes it for you, but not for him. So you're eating alone while he watches you eat and talks at you.
Yeah. You've just stolen $400,000.
Yeah, it's just awkward. It's just awkward.
Yeah, very weird. there's not a credited sound designer. That was not even a term I think that existed, but for all intents and purposes, Hitchcock is the sound designer.
Yeah.
He's the auteur of this, and he's determining. And I think the way the music is layered in and the way sound effects and silence and dialogue, it's all very, very modern for its time. It's well done.
Yeah, I think this movie sounds great. So let's move on to performances. We've got Anthony Perkins as Norman Bates.
Holy shit.
It's crazy.
It is such a good performance, and arguably ends his career. It's so good. It's one of these things where he becomes so synonymous with this character, he never really gets to do anything else.
Yeah, I mean, I love how awkward he is and how the performance it at moments it's charming, at other moments it's unsettling. He really telegraphs kind of the nervousness and the disturbed manners of Norman, and it's basically like without this level of high tier acting, none of the twists would have worked.
Yeah. He, like I said this to Lisa, like how many women has something bad happened to because they ignored their first instinct, which was someone was dangerous, because they were disarmed by them being a little awkward and cute. Mm-hmm. And that's totally like Norman Bates. You're like, at first you're like, ugh, creep. And then he just seems a little goofy and you're like, oh no, he's just a nerd. He's not a creep. He's nice. And then he ends up being a creep. Like,
yeah.
Like, you know what? It's better to hurt someone's feelings and listen to that first red flag, probably. But yeah, Perkins just plays it so well. The book describes him as having 3 personalities.
Okay.
Norman, who is like a kid.
Yeah.
Norma, the mother. And Normal, which is Norman being an adult.
Okay.
And so you can see when he's the kid and he becomes cute and he's like eating Halloween candy out of his little baggie, and like he's just like kind of like an imp almost, like he's elfy.
Yeah.
And Norma, when he's sinister, like, and he goes dark, he gets mad. And then and then Normal is the guy that checks people in at the hotel. Like,
and like when Marion's sister comes and her boyfriend come, that's Normal. He's just kind of, hey, whatever.
I'm just adult business owner Norman Bates.
Yeah.
Not a child and an old woman in the same body.
Yeah, it's interesting. In the movie, they never use the term Norma or anything like that. It's just mother and Norman, and it's sort of I don't know, it's really appropriate. I like those permutations.
So he shouts, "I'm Norma Bates," at the end of the movie when he comes in, but it is completely covered up in the music. You can't hear it.
Was that really his mother's name, Norma?
Yeah.
Norma and Norman.
Yeah.
Dang.
Mm-hmm. So anyways, Anthony Perkins is incredible.
Very good.
So good. Iconic. There's so many, like the image, the closing image of him in like the padded room or whatever, and he's doing the Kubrick stare 10 years or so before Kubrick was making movies.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's the Perkins stare, you know?
It's the Kubrick stare before Kubrick has made any films.
Yes.
It's obviously, it's got to be where he gets it from.
You can't tell me Kubrick never saw never saw Psycho.
Yeah. You have to see it. It's like, it's a requisite. Yeah. Next up, I got Janet Leigh as Marion Crane.
Yeah.
Jamie Lee Curtis's mom.
Okay, yeah. She's great, and she's awesome. The first act, when she's the protagonist, I'm just like, oh man, this is cool. It's a movie about this robber lady, like embezzler.
Not a good planner. I don't think she's thought this through
No,
very
this
far.
was a crime of passion.
Yeah.
She's not really good at making decisions, but whatever. And it's just, I was charmed by this character, and she was really, really likable.
Yeah.
I was rooting for her the whole time.
You want her to get away from the cops so bad.
And then I wanted her to get away from Norman, but I know she's going to die because I've seen the stab scene a million times.
Yeah.
Like, that's like a standard gif, right?
Yeah. It is. She's really great in it. And she plays it very naturalistically, too. And I would ask the cultists to remember, in 1959, 1960... a woman can't even have a bank account in her own name.
Absolutely.
So to just hold that perspective in your head when she has money problems and a boyfriend with money problems, and a creep puts an envelope of $40,000 in her hand, what that would actually feel like. You know, like the potential there, like, and how she gets caught up in it. Mm-hmm. Because it's just it's a different world that she lives in than we do.
Oh, absolutely. I thought this performance was really good. I think that she's, she was cast because she's a big name, and she's a big name for a reason.
Yeah, absolutely. Then Vera Miles as Lila Crane, the sister.
Yeah, this wasn't as large of a part. It was kind of she was in the third act.
She's one of the
one of the leads.
Yeah,
but being co-lead of 1/3 of the movie is kind of a small part. But she does a good job. The character is believable. I'm rooting for her as she's sneaking into the house. Yeah. I'm like, oh no, you're gonna get caught.
And you're like, when the small town sheriff is like condescending to her, you're like, fuck this guy. She has a right to be concerned, and she's not crazy. You're gaslighting her,
Yeah.
Like, she's like, oh, I know Norman Bates and blah, blah, blah. And he's just a weird boy that runs this shady motel along the side of the road. And probably your sister is just a no-good Nick.
Yeah.
Like, she's run off with the detective, I bet. Yeah, it's like, you're like, no, Lila, good job. Be tenacious.
She was persistent. She never gave up. It was a good performance. I thought Vera Miles was very likable, and I thought that it was nice seeing this lady. She's like in high heel shoes and everything, and she's sneaking across a gravel lot.
Yeah,
like, okay, that's not realistic, but do your best.
You had to. It was hard there's no sensible shoes.
She wasn't wearing sneakers back in that day.
Yeah. It would have been too weird or wearing jeans. Any of that stuff. Josh Gavin as Sam Loomis.
Mm-hmm. That was a good performance.
Good looking. He's a leading man, handsome.
Absolutely. I was like, okay, they got a Chad.
Yeah, he was. I forget. He's a Universal contract guy. He was just like one of those guys that shows up to Universal Studios like it's a job. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, as Steve.
They're like, what do you got for a handsome guy? Yeah, we've got John Gavin. That works.
That'll work. Yeah, Dr. Stephen Brule would call him a hunk.
A hunk, yeah. He's a hunk, but a hunk of quality, I think.
Yeah, he did a good job. His acting was good. I liked the performance. I didn't think it was like the performance of the movie or anything, but he was a believable guy. And
he supports Lila. He doesn't ever sort of like, he's like, Lila, you're a hysterical woman, and slap her like Sean Connery would have done. He listens to Lila and is like, no, you're right. We'll go investigate this.
Yeah, I liked that guy. I also liked Martin Balsam as Milton Arbogast.
Yeah.
That was an interesting character. He's like this shrewd kind of
private investigator.
Yeah, kind of Weasley PI.
And so when he showed up is when it clicked to me how much American Psycho leans on Psycho, because he's the Willem Dafoe.
The guy's name is like Norman. It's like Bateman and Bates. Yeah, American Psycho is the Psycho remake that we wanted.
Yeah, it is the 80s version of Psycho, so it's more horrible.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so I was like, I should have mentioned this in the music. The music in American Psycho references the music in Psycho also in the score. But, when Arbogast shows up, and I was like, oh, this is Willem Dafoe's guy. Oh, these two movies with Psycho in the name are more connected than I realized.
Yeah.
Although maybe there's a reason I've scheduled these movies together for the discussion.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that this performance was really good. I liked Arbogast. He was just sleazy enough and just persistent, like that you would believe that this guy is a PI.
Yeah. But he is like, he's a good judge of character for the most part, right? Like he's very suspicious of Sam and Lila until he spends like 5 minutes alone with them, and it's like, nah, neither one of these is the one to pull off the crime.
Yeah, they don't have the money.
Yeah, they don't have the money. They don't have the
missing the girl.
They don't have the temperament to have done a big crime.
Yeah,
yeah.
And I mean, there's a bunch more people in here.
Yeah, so
just minor.
Josh McIntyre as Sheriff Al Chambers, who I already said I fucking hate the sheriff.
Yeah, and Mort Mills as the highway patrol guy. Ooh, hate him too. He's the worst.
And like the mirrored shades is so effective at dehumanizing. He's the T-1000.
Oh, exactly.
Right?
That's exactly what I thought. Oh, it's T-1000. I guess that's where they get it from. Psycho.
There's something about the guy that doesn't take those glasses off, and you just are looking at yourself when you're talking to them. It's very uncomfortable, and he seems like a real prick.
Absolutely.
Is there anyone else that needs to talk about? No. Wait, is Tom Cassidy the cowboy gangster businessman?
I think so.
So Frank Albertson is Tom Cassidy. Also a huge creep.
Yeah, just total creepo, but, that was the performance.
That was the performance. Oh, wait. Here is one more. The three people that do the voice of Mother. Virginia Gregg, Paul Jasmine, and Jeanette Nolan all do the voice of Mother. Virginia Gregg is the person that continued playing the part in Psycho 2 and 3. But there's several times we hear Mother's voice, and they're different voice actors every time.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So, iconic part of the movie.
Yeah, it's a really good cast. So, what's your personal highlight from the movie?
My personal highlight is Janet Leigh and Tony Perkins in the parlor.
Oh.
When they sit down for supper after she's heard Mother curse Norman out for being a pervert, and
basically he curses himself out. I love that idea.
He can't bring this woman up to the house or whatever, so he brings milk and sandwiches down to her. And the journey we go on with the two characters, where like she's uncomfortable and he's awkward, and then she's sort of sympathetic to him, and she pushes a little far and oversteps the line, and he gets mad at her, and then she backs off, and they do this little dance back and forth with each other, and it's sweet and it's scary, and you go through like a whole range of emotions in that sequence.
Yeah.
And I just thought, like, just superb. Like, it's, to me, like, that's the best thing in the movie, because you feel like everything in just, it's probably like 5 minutes of footage.
Yeah, it's quite a scene, and it's not overly long, but it really is. It's tense and it's awkward.
Yeah, and then she leaves, and then he peeps at her through his peephole.
Oh yeah,
and it's like, oh, you are a creep. You like, you won me over. Like, I was scared with your taxidermy, but then you were sweet. Then you got mad and you scared me. And then you have the nerve to be a creep at the end of it. Like, I don't know where I stand with you, Norman Bates. Yeah, so it's just the two of them together in that sequence is just superb. What about you?
Mine is also kind of a delicate dance between Perkins and Leigh, and that's the shower scene.
Oh.
I mean,
it's iconic.
I was really thinking of like what makes this movie, and that is a scene that is really just you can't think of Psycho without thinking of that. Just the knife rising and falling, and just it's implied violence, and there's the screams and all of this stuff, and it's iconic. We use this word a lot, but it really is that's sort of like that's slasher movies. That's where it comes from.
My favorite shot is the knife in front of her tummy. Mm-hmm. It's not even pointed at her.
It's just sort of sideways.
It's sideways in front of her bare stomach, and you hear it's like a ring sound, and it's just the shot of the knife there in front of her, and you imagine it stabbing into her stomach. You don't have to see it. Your mind fills in that blank, and it's just in isolation. The picture looks like nothing, but the way they drop it in is so effective.
Yeah, this has really been kind of refined and homaged and redone in so many movies. This style of scene, and it's really effective at storytelling without being gratuitous. Mm-hmm. It's scary, and it's just really well done. I thought that was innovative.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And then that final shot of her hung over the edge of the tub, with her neck at the awkward angle, and just you're just looking at her glassy eye.
Yeah, that is the scene of the movie for me. So
yeah, oh, for sure.
So what worked for you?
What worked for me? The performances, Anthony Perkins, Janet Leigh, all the people we've mentioned, they're just great, iconic performances, and to the point. It's for Anthony Perkins, so iconic that arguably he never gets to work again doing anything other than playing weird little creeps.
There's worse lives to have.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't have nowadays someone like that does the convention circuit and makes a good living at that forever, showing up to horror conventions.
They sell you a $40 picture and an autograph.
And they sign it, and they're like, "Can I get a selfie of you holding this kitchen knife?"
Of course you can. Anything for my fans.
Yeah, another $40.
It's nowadays it costs $40, but it used to be whatever.
Yeah,
as part of it.
So the performance, the cinematography. There's so many the. We haven't even talked about the opening shot of Phoenix, and it's whip pans getting closer and closer until you go into the hotel room. So it's that classic Hitchcock sort of voyeur shot, right?
Yeah.
We are zooming in to peer into this illicit place that they're not supposed to be there, and we're not supposed to be seeing them. So it's just excellent cinematography. The music, the score is iconic. You know what these sounds mean, even if you've never seen the movie. And then finally, just the sense of anxiety that permeates the movie. You mentioned this too, the way this ties in with the music. The music makes you feel anxious, and then it soothes you, and then it brings the tension back up. And
absolutely,
it plays you like the cello in the orchestra, and it's just really well done. What about you? What worked for you?
So I obviously agree with the performances. I think the casting was excellent and the performances were great. I feel like the leads in this movie just crushed it. They were really, really good. And you pretty much covered that part. I really like how this movie it builds tension and suspense in such a way that it's absolutely palpable. There's moments seriously, I'm watching a 65-year-old movie and I'm sitting on my couch and I'm like, ooh, while the lady's sneaking through the house, or whatever, and it's just the way that it's cut and the way that it's directed, it lends so much gravity to these performances. It makes it feel like at any moment Norman's gonna catch you or whatever. It's you almost feel it. So earlier in the movie it's the cops, right? And then later on it's Norman. You always feel like you're the prey. The movie makes you feel what these people are feeling like. It's the Ralphie, I'm in danger.
Yeah.
Like,
it gives you that sense of danger. Yeah.
Watching this movie makes you feel like you're in danger because it's so well made.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the greatest part of the movie. The other parts are all really good and all of that, but that's why Hitchcock is remembered. His movies, you can forget the stories that he's telling, but you will not forget the way he made you feel when you're watching the movie. To paraphrase the famous quote, that is just that he evokes emotion through his directing, which is, I don't know, that's magical.
Yeah,
it's a special kind of storytelling.
It's movie magic. Yeah.
And then lastly, I just want to say, I like black and white movies, and so that worked for me.
Yeah, I do too.
So what didn't work for you?
There's one sequence in this movie that I hate.
I wonder if it's the one I have.
Probably. It probably is. I hate it so much. And even Hitchcock himself argued against the scene in the movie, but the writer insisted on it.
Okay.
Hitchcock called it a hat grabber. He said, this scene's going to start and people are going to get their coats and hats and get up and walk out of the movie. And that is when the psychiatrist shows up at the end of the movie and bloviates for a good 3-4 minutes about Norman.
Worst scene in the movie.
Norman Bates explaining in condescending detail all of his, like, after 15 minutes of talking to the guy, he is diagnosed, and he just goes on and on, explains all this stuff. He's very insensitive to the people like Lila. So is my sister dead or
she
not?
dead. She dead.
And he's like, oh, I'm sorry, honey. Yes, very dead. She's in the swamp. But Norman didn't do it. It was Mother that did it. And here, let me tell you more about me as a psychiatrist. And like,
that was a hat grabber.
It really is.
I went back to my notes. As soon as that guy was talking, I went to my notes.
It's so bad. And when the movie, like, we always talk about show, don't tell, right?
Mm-hmm.
A movie that's all show until the final 5 minutes or so, and then it becomes tell, and not just tell. A condescending asshole is going to lecture you.
Absolutely.
At the end of the movie. And I was just like, I don't know how you steer it into the ditch here right at the last second when this has been a perfect film up until this point.
Absolutely. I'm with you.
So is that what didn't work for you?
So yeah, I mean, first and foremost, the psychologist scene where he explains the movie.
Yeah.
It's like, bro, we just watched it. It was an hour and a half. We get it.
Yeah.
Mom was terrible. Norman's mind is broken. He is a shattered man. We get it. You don't have to explain this. This is the movie adequately showed us who he is. This is a trash scene. Cut it. It was so bad. And the acting was okay if he was told to be a pompous prick.
Yeah.
But I was just like, oh my God, this is fucking terrible.
Yeah.
And then the only other thing I would say that is this is a minor gripe. It's that it felt kind of slow at times. Like it did not move right along.
Yeah.
This movie did not feel any sense of urgency because it's kind of a slow plot, and so there were some scenes where it just kind of belabored some things.
I feel like it's trucking right up to the point that Abergast goes up to the house, and then things slow way down.
Yeah, it's like, what's with the last half of the third act?
Yeah,
it just shows up, like drops a deuce in its own bed, and then lays down in it.
Yeah,
like, come on, guys.
Yeah.
So that's what didn't work for me. What's your final thoughts and rating?
So what do you do? This is what's a tough thing. It's that the bad scene is at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
And so it is the taste you leave with.
Yes.
And so it's a 5-star movie up until you hit this 2-star scene. And then actually you cut to Norman in his cell and the mother narration, and then it does kind of pull the car back out of the ditch.
Out of the swamp.
Yeah, out of the swamp. Yeah. And you have that iconic shot where they overlay mother's face over his for just a second.
Yeah.
And it's subliminal and it's really good. But it has this one bad scene, but the bad scene is at the end. I think you do. It's still a 5. It is still a 5, but you have to acknowledge there is a stinker at the end of it. It has one bad sequence, and it deploys it at the absolute worst time you could deploy your bad sequence.
Yeah.
If it was early in the movie, you would have forgotten about it by the time you got to the good ending. But because it's at the end, you're like, why the fuck did that guy come in and give me a lecture at the end?
Yeah.
So I think it's a 5, but I almost I had the thought of you when we watched Near Dark, and you loved the movie like all the way through until the blood transfusion at the end.
Yeah.
And you knocked a whole star off of your review because of the blood transfusion. And I was like, it's still the majority of the movie is 5-star movie. We discussed for 90 minutes now a 5-star movie that has one really bad sequence in it.
Yeah.
So what about you?
Well, I'm on the same fence where I'm deciding between 4 and 5.
Yeah.
And I really think that scene was bad, and I think that most of the movie I would describe as genius.
Yeah.
I know it's a classic and everyone talks about how great it is or whatever, but it actually is. It lives up to the hype.
Yeah.
And I'm a famous hater.
Yeah.
I normally don't like things. But I thought
I knew you were going to dislike this scene too.
It was crap. It was terrible. Yeah. And so it's like, do I drop a star off of it? I think that it was, with Near Dark or whatever, I could do that because the movie was good the whole way through, but it wasn't
great.
It wasn't like cinematic greatness. It was just a good movie. This was greatness all the way till the end, and then it's just like, what the fuck? So I mean, I've given where I have to come down on this is I've given worse movies a 5.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm gonna give this a 5, even though I think that scene is just. Oh, it's a turd. It's really a turd of a scene, but I have given I gave The Crow a 5.
Yeah.
I've given some good movies 5s. If I didn't give Psycho a 5, but I give some of those other ones a 5, I'd be a bit of an unreliable narrator.
Yeah. That's fair, yeah.
So the world sort of agrees with us in the mix. I mean, Rotten Tomatoes has it at 97%.
Yeah.
That's rose-tinted goggles. All of this is because it's a 65-year-old movie. IMDb is actually 8.5, and then Letterboxd is 4.3, which I'm actually shocked at that 4.3.
Yeah.
But, haters gonna hate.
That's true.
And I think that this is one of those movies that it would, this, if we were doing fractions, it wouldn't even be a 4.5. It would be a 4 3/4.
Yeah. It's damn near perfect until just that scene. It's so, and when I was watching the behind the scenes documentary and the line about Hitchcock calling it a hat grabber, and it's like, it is totally, you're like, well, I'm done. It's that, he comes in and starts talking and you're like, yeah, let's beat the traffic, honey, and get out of here.
Absolutely. It's like when you're watching a band play live and they come back out for the encore and they play the amazing song, but then they're going to do one more. You're like, ha-ha!
Joke's on you.
Later.
I was waiting for that one.
Exactly.
Yeah. You're notorious. You always,
I leave halfway through the encore or before the encore.
If they dick around too long, you're out of there.
If I saw this, so I go to a show, not to be too sidetracked, if I go to a show, I have a song I want to see. Mm-hmm. If I hear that song
before the encore,
I'm leaving because I saw what I wanted to see.
Lisa and I saw Amyl and the Sniffers a little while ago, a few weeks or months or who knows.
Yeah.
Time is relative. And she she was tapped out. It's a weeknight, and she's like, I want to go. She's like, you stay and watch the encore. I'm going to go to the car. And she texts me from the car as they're playing the encore, and she's like, I can hear it fine from here.
Perfect.
I was like,
that's like the Roseland, like when I left Hatebreed or whatever, I could hear the encore walk into my car.
Yeah. It sounds good outside. Arguably, sometimes it sounds better outside.
Sometimes it does.
Okay.
All right, so let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back with the Vault of Darkness.
Before we delve into the Vault of Darkness, we ask that all initiates of the cult follow us on your favorite social media platforms at Nightshade Cult.
If you've enjoyed this content, help us grow the cult by sharing it with like-minded people, and leave us a review wherever you listen.
Do you have any dark tidings before we pull something out of the vault?
No, nothing really.
Okay, then what are you pulling out of the Vault of Darkness?
Yeah, I had trouble with this, trying to make a connection with Psycho or whatever. I thought about American Psycho, the album, but... we talked about Misfits a bunch in the past and the like. And so I just decided I'm just going to go with something old. And also, I've been just busy as heck with work and whatever, race car driving and the like. And I just been busy. Okay. Nothing new. So I went with something old. I looked at what I've been listening to music-wise.
Okay.
And I am a notorious trash talker of boomers. Like, I straight up don't like them. I'm on record. Except for Gary Newman. Oh. My favorite boomer.
Is he technically? Or
I looked it up. Okay. Yeah, he was born in 1958, which is, proximal to the making of this movie.
He's a Generation Jones, right? Like, he's a cusper of the boomers.
I mean, it's till 1964 is boomers. Okay. And because I was curious, I was like, oh yeah, there's other old guys I like, but no, they're all like old Xers, you know. Anyway, he's firmly in the boomer zone.
Okay.
And I wanted to talk about. I tried to narrow it down to one, but there's 3 albums I listened to. I'm only going to really talk about 2 of them.
Okay.
I like one album that was kind of almost critically panned during the time when it was released. Was Pure 2000. This is his 14th studio album. It has this came out and people said he was trying to copy Nine Inch Nails and Marilyn Manson, etc., etc. When in reality, those guys are mega influenced by him.
Oh, for sure.
He also said that, yes, he was a fan of the American Gothic industrial scene as well, of course, of the British Gothic scene. So there was kind of a synergistic circle going on there. And 2 top tier tracks that every cultist should check out, just go pull them up on Spotify or YouTube or whatever, is Pure, the title track. Okay. The guitar chugging on this, from the time that it came out, this was different. Also, just it has like a chug guitar with this awesome, really kind of melodic synth piece over the top. Super legit. Then the next song on this one that I wanted to call out was the only single from the album. It's called Rip. This has a really sinister sounding melody to it. Like the chord progression is very minor, but the vocals are really, really good. I highly enjoy those 2 songs. But the whole album is good front to back. And then the other one, he has 2 kind of more modern albums that I couldn't really decide, but I went with Savage, Songs from a Broken World, 2017's his 18th album. Wow. And
so both new albums.
Well, one from 2000, one from 2017, and then the honorable mentions from 2021. So, okay. I mean, but come on, 2000, that's a 25-year-old album.
Yeah.
So this, but Savage, it has my favorite Gary Newman song on it. Which is My Name is Ruin. This has like kind of a dancey beat, but it has a heavy rhythm, and the vocals are mellow while the rhythm and the beat are kind of banging. Like, it's a really good song. Like, if you haven't listened to My Name Is Ruin, you're gonna love it. It's got like a nice kind of staccato guitar piece. Super good. And then the other one on this album that I really like is And It All Began With You. This is a song that's really slow, and it's haunting, and it's sad. This is sad boy music, which I'm a notorious fan of. But this really showcases Gary's vocals. He's really singing on this song, and I really like it. The lyrics are great. It's kind of a sad romantic song, and it's an awesome song. So I highly recommend those. And then honorable mention to Intruder from 2021, his most recent album, which actually, of these albums, which I guess you'd call the modern era, the best reviewed by far. Like, there are reviewers that said that Intruder is maybe Gary Numan's finest album.
And what year did you say that one was from?
2021. I'm a huge Gary Numan fan, and I'm kind of a new Gary Numan fan, new and old. Like, I first got into him when, through a cover song, or, late 90s, Fear Factory covered Gary Numan, Cars. Right, and then when they played it live and it utterly destroyed, it was so good. I was a fan. And then, of course, my wife, she's a big fan of Gary Numan, especially the album Pure. So I've heard it a lot. I really like it. And if you're into Nine Inch Nails at all, well, Trent Reznor says Gary Numan is his hero. So you should listen to Gary Newman.
Yeah. Like, it's everyone, Marilyn Manson covered Gary Newman, Foo Fighters. That's probably one of my favorite Foo Fighters songs is the Gary Newman cover.
I think that he's, I don't know if saying he's underrated is legit, because I don't know anybody who says he's not amazing, but he should be a global superstar when he's just kind of a big rock star. He should be bigger, I think. Yeah. In my opinion, Gary Newman is like David Bowie. He's on that tier for me.
Interesting. Yeah, and he's so like I think to the normies, he's a one-hit wonder.
Absolutely.
Right?
But the dude's got like 20 albums or something.
Yeah. And it's weird. There's certain bands that are cult bands that are also one-hit wonders. So like everyone knows Chumbawamba, Tub Thumping.
Yeah.
But they're like an anarcho-punk band with 1 million albums, and there was one song that broke big on the radio, and that's the one everyone knows. Yeah. But they're also a very influential band. Gary Numan is one of the main guys of like the post-punk and synth pop.
And he's so talented. Like, he plays so many instruments, and he writes all his music. He programs all his drums. He does all the software stuff. He plays all the synth pieces. He plays guitar. He plays bass. He's a vocalist. This dude he's
a one-man crack.
He's
like
a genius.
A proto Trent Reznor.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's what I'm pulling out. Old stuff. What about you? What you got from the vault?
The opposite. Something very new.
Oh, snap.
Something extremely current. Best movie that's come out all year, and that's Sinners from Ryan Coogler.
I've been seeing lots of reviews for this.
This movie's incredible.
Okay.
It is. It's a good time for vampires between Nosferatu and Sinners. We're on a run with like iconic vampire movies.
Heck yeah.
It is hard to encapsulate this movie down to something that's easy to digest, because it is so layered and so filled with symbolism and subtext. I told someone that it's like Dusk Till Dawn if Dusk Till Dawn was about something. And that is true, but it's underselling it, because it is about so many different things.
Nice.
It's set in the kind of, we talk about this a lot, the intra-war period, the post World War I, pre World War II, in the Jim Crow South. And Michael B. Jordan is playing the Smokestack Twins. He's playing two characters.
Yeah.
And they're World War I veterans and sort of small-time hoods that are hood famous in Mississippi, like where they come from.
Okay.
They after the war, they went off to Chicago, as many people did, Great Migration.
Yes.
Left the South and made some money up there nefariously, and have returned to Mississippi and want to open up a juke joint. And then about midway through the movie, fucking vampires show up to ruin the night.
Nice.
And it talk about just like expertly made auteur filmmaking. This is just beautiful.
Who's the director?
Ryan Coogler. So Ryan Coogler directed a small movie, Fruitvale Station, and then he did the first 2 Creed movies and then the Black Panther movies.
Okay.
He is the most financially successful director under 40, basically, that's working right now. And this is what this is his passion project that he cashed in his all of his, like when you're building Heat, he's cashing it all in big time to do this historical vampire movie.
Well, and this is a smash hit. He's made so much money.
Yes, and he has, there's a lot of hand-wringing that first weekend because he has a deal that's very typical to auteur filmmakers, like very much the sort of deal a Quentin Tarantino would get.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where he gets a share of gross, not net.
Yeah.
So he's getting money immediately instead of waiting for the studio to recoup and play funny with the funds and be like, we're still not in profitability yet. He's getting his cut right from the start, and the ownership of the film reverts to him after 25 years.
Okay.
And so it's a Warner Brothers movie, but Warner Brothers is not going to own Sinners after 25 years. Ryan Coogler owns Sinners.
Okay.
Which is... Black ownership is a big theme in the movie. So, like, even the making of the movie is metatextual to the movie. If you just want a fun historical vampire movie, it is that, but it is much, much more. Okay. It's, superb film. And I don't know, if you're like me and you're a contrarian and don't like being pushed to go see things, and you're like, it can't be as good as people say, resist that and go see it. It is as good as people say.
Is it worth not seeing it at my house?
Yes, I would say, and although we're running out of time to do this because the next Marvel schlockbuster is coming out this weekend, you want to see it on IMAX if you possibly can, because it's filmed both in 70 millimeter Panavision and IMAX, and it shifts aspect ratios. So it is like, it's ultra wide when you're looking at the Mississippi Delta and the cotton fields and like these beautiful landscape shots. And then when you go into the juke joint and you have like the musical numbers or the action sequences, it shifts to IMAX. And so it goes from super wide to super tall. Okay. And like it just comes alive in this like really visceral way. The movie, the adjective I came away with right away was it's sumptuous. It is it's such a it's just like it's shot in like the high, like with the largest format film available, and the level of detail and texture that it has, and like I don't know, like you see like the colors and the texture of people's skin, sweat on people's skin. Like, it's just such a tactile, sort of visceral feeling movie. So it's definitely worth seeing on the IMAX screen while you still can. I'm hoping maybe the Hollywood Theater gets a 70 millimeter print of it, and I'll go see it again. It's a movie I'll see multiple times. Although, like, for the people that for whatever reason they prefer the home release, the home release is going to have the aspect ratio shifts in it, so you will get that effect in your home viewing. It's just not the same as a giant IMAX screen.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
So that's what I got.
Well, we'd like to thank you for joining the Nightshade Cult.
Until we meet again, we're wishing you unpleasant dreams.